we have with us Sarah and Fred. So I'd like to ask Sarah to introduce herself first, and then we'll start with Fred, and then we'll also be coming back to all of you. I'll also request everyone, if you're looking good and feeling good about yourself, turn on your camera so we can see who you are and what you're up to. Sarah.
Yes, hi everybody. Good to see you. At least some of you have the video on, so that makes it much nicer. Yeah, my name is Sarah. I'm working at German Entrepreneurship GmbH since 5 years now, and my role is the Director of Business Development. And what we do, we're a network company, so we try, or actually we not try, we do, connect corporates, startups, and science. That's kind of our mission and what we do. So we're running 2 accelerator programs, one for early stage startups without industry limit, and another one for later stage startups in the tech field to help them to internationalize to US and to Southeast Asia. On the other hand, we have a consulting arm. Actually, that's where we get all the money from. So we work with big corporates and bring innovation in. And on the other hand, we work with governments, with university, have a research arm, and do classes and give classes at university, work and consult in different countries. So yeah, that's actually where I'm coming from. And I think ecosystem starts with networking. So I'm looking forward to meet all you guys.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Fred. So Fred is a good friend, and he visited Pakistan a year ago, I think, almost now. And he used to run the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator. Fred, please go ahead.
Well, it's morning here in Los Angeles, so good morning. So I know it's not morning there, so good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it might be. Yes, I'm Fred. I think the first thing you should know about me is that I'm an entrepreneur. I've tried to start 11 companies during my career, all different kinds of companies, from internet companies to, believe it or not, motorcycle companies. Of those 11, 7 got off the ground, 5 of them made a touch of money, and 1 made a lot of money. So I probably have the kind of experience that most entrepreneurs go through: a lot of try and a little bit of return. For 6 years, I was the founding CEO of the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator, which leads the city of Los Angeles' efforts to develop an innovation hub around clean technology and sustainable technology so that LA can continue to pursue building a huge green economy. We started it, and we can go into as much detail about this as you like. We started it in a garage in downtown Los Angeles, very close to what's called Skid Row here, and it's like it sounds. And we built that over a period of 6 years to a 50,000 square foot facility that was purposely built for clean tech entrepreneurs. And our program grew, and we've probably helped 120 companies. And we have returned almost $650 million worth of long-term economic value to the city of Los Angeles. We've helped our companies raise over $200 million, so forth and so on. I am now the CEO of the Network for Global Innovation, which is a nonprofit that we formed as part of LACI. And when I resigned from LACI, I took this and made it a separate company. And I did that because our companies, even though they were young, even though they're early stage, we believe that the market for their products were larger outside the US than inside. And our companies could not, or didn't have the, they're not a SAP or Siemens. They don't have the ability to get out into new markets easily. So our mission was to reduce the friction of expanding into new markets for innovative companies by developing a network. And our mission is essentially to build a global support system for sustainable technology entrepreneurs. And so we've built a membership network. I think now it's around 29 members in 14 different countries. And we do really 3 things. One, we help entrepreneurs either get into new markets, become more successful. And we do that by programming. And we do a lot of work with UNIDO in developing nations. Two, we act like a network. We connect people. As Sarah was saying, that's the big part of an ecosystem is connecting people. And the third part is that we help our partners and our members increase the performance of their ecosystems by sharing best practices and so forth. We have been in existence now. I think we're coming up on our third anniversary. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about one part of what we do, and we can go in whatever direction and go in any detail we like. It's kind of a compact group, so we can have a lot of questions. And I want to talk about innovation hubs and the ecosystems that support them. So and what we've learned about it. And I'm going to start with hubs and incubators. We started LACI, and it was originally funded by the city of Los Angeles, and like 90% of our funding was city of Los Angeles. And 7 years later, we had city of Los Angeles was 20% of our funding, and we had grown our budget by 10x. And so the first lesson I've learned in operating and building innovation hubs is you have to have multiple sources of revenue. And Sarah can speak to this. I know that it's a really important thing. I think we eventually had like 8 or 9 different sources. We can talk about what those sources are, but the smallest source of revenue should be the entrepreneurs, obviously. But by the way, LACI is an incubator, and by that I mean it has ongoing programs. It's not. It wasn't initially organized as a cohort-based. The second thing I've learned, which was surprising because I started out life, probably went through most of life as kind of an arrogant guy. Only good entrepreneurs can come from California, from San Francisco or LA or whatever. That's where the good stuff happens, and everything else you can't have. And then I started, of course, going around the world, and I've been to probably 40 different countries. And now what I know is that in every country, no matter how developed or developing there are great entrepreneurs, young people who are trying to build terrific companies. Most of the people I meet, of course, are trying to build sustainable types of companies that help their countries. But here's what they don't have. They don't have places like what Sarah does and what I do. They don't have support. They don't have innovation ecosystem support. And so that's, to me, that makes our mission to help build those so much more important, because I believe that if we're going to solve climate change, we can't do it by porting great technologies out of Silicon Valley or wherever and then putting them out to the rest of the world. We have to develop innovative technologies and commercialize those technologies across the world. And that's kind of what Engine does. The next thing we did or the next key learning I would share with you is act fast, move fast. When we started LACI, and literally I'm telling you, it was a bus repair garage. We had already bought a big piece of land down the street that we were eventually going to build what I now term to be the Taj Mahal of Cleantech. But it was just an empty building, and a bunch of people that we worked with, supported us, wanted us to wait to raise the money to get that building up and going and then start the program. And I'm so glad we didn't take that advice. We started immediately, very small. And so I believe that no matter how small it is, it's really, really, really important to get on the ground and get moving as quick as you can in whatever format. When we had our big grand opening at LACI, we had 2 entrepreneurs who were helping. And we thought that was great. So start fast. Entrepreneurs need 3 things, from broadly speaking. And I'm not talking money. We all know that that's number 1, 2, 3, 4. They came to LACI because of the network. LACI was closely associated with the city of Los Angeles, Department of Water and Power and so forth. They wanted to get in and sell their technologies to the people we know. That's why they came. And we have a very large network. Even then, we had we knew a lot of people in the city of LA. But they stayed, okay, because of the help they received from the entrepreneurs and residents. So the second thing they need is really programming by people who actually know what they're doing relative to being an entrepreneur that can help them on our EIRs became workmates, became board members, became much more than a mentor. They became people that helped them work. And the third thing, and the least important thing, was space. The last thing, when I was building my companies, figuring out how to, where to go, what kind of office space to rent, and how big and how long, that was a pretty risky situation. It's much less risky today with co-working spaces. But the for clean technology folks, we build things, we bend metal. And so to do that, you need different kinds of facilities than if you're coding. And those kinds of facilities include chemistry labs and prototyping labs and even welding and so forth. So I will hit the pause button now, Sean. I don't know if I've gone past my 5 minutes. I can go on and on. And then we can talk about the ecosystems in a broader sense.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Fred, for that introduction. So, Sarah, what about German entrepreneurship, and how was your evolution different from what Fred just talked about, from a business model perspective and the history perspective?
I mean, probably you're not wondering. It's actually pretty similar, and I would recommend the same things actually. So that's pretty cool. I really like that one. Entrepreneurs are everywhere. It doesn't matter which country, which city and stuff. I mean, I think this is kind of a characteristic and a special type of people. We always say entrepreneurs are everywhere. You just have to find them. That's kind of what we do in our incubator. I would also agree, start small. Don't wait until you have the biggest thing already developed. Nothing is better to start with a pilot and then really iterate to learn from your failures and whatsoever. Get people on, work close to your customer. Actually, that's the approach. I can really agree to that. And maybe what I would add would be really be collaborative. So don't try to build all the knowledge yourself. That's just not possible. You can't be a professional in everything. So really learn to ask other people and to ask other organizations and to really bring forward your products or your projects. For example, we run the German accelerator, and we know we can't handle the US market from Munich in Germany. So what we did is really searching for people, for professionals in the cities to run this project for us. So you kind of have the feeling that you lose power, but actually you win. I think this could also be a good addition.
Sarah, can I jump in for 1 second? Because you and I were talking before, and while we agree on many of all the same principles, we used to operate differently. I think that people on this call would really love to hear about your corporate work and how you use entrepreneurs with corporations, because I thought that was pretty interesting, pretty unique. Sorry, Shaw.
I agree. I was hoping you could talk about that.
Yeah. It was similar to you. You need different revenue streams. That's also how it works for us. So all we do for our startups is free lunch for them. So we don't take equity from the startups. We don't give them money either. But a really interesting fact on the one hand is that in our early stage accelerator, 48% get funding after running through our program. That's because we have a massive network and ecosystem going on. And I'm convinced that you always have to build win-win situations within an ecosystem. So actually what we do is using these assets we have, big talents, good entrepreneurs, success stories and so on, to really give benefits to corporates. So we're working with different DAX companies together, for example, in a startup scouting, startup matching kind of a way. The knowledge we teach our students at Ludwig Maximilian University or to our startups is also valuable for example, employees in a car manufacturer in Munich. I think you can all imagine it has blue and white colors, which car manufacturer that is. But what we did there, for example, is to build an accelerator program for entrepreneurs. So people, there we do the same, like entrepreneurs are everywhere. We just have to find them within the companies that really can develop with these techniques. We also teach our startups like lean startup, design thinking, smoke testing and whatsoever to really bring this value to the company. And actually that's where we generate our revenue off and then can do like further impact within the ecosystem. Or we have like education program at university with really good speakers. We use or we ask our founders, and you may know N26, which is one of the biggest online banks in this world. Actually, it's one of the alumni of German Accelerator. We asked him to really give us insight how it is to pitch in front of an investor, for example, or how difficult it is to find the best team and stuff like that. So he really gives insights, hands-on insights of those topics, and we just put it all together in an online course on entrepreneurship, for example, which is also valuable for a sports company here in Bavaria. It has 3 stripes. That's kind of a project we also do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, Fred, if you don't mind, I like to have some of the participants also introduce themselves so that we have a general idea of who's here and what are they thinking. So, we'll start with Kate Newton. She's from GSV Labs. Kate, tell us about your work. Tell us about GSV.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Excited to learn from the conversation and already from Fred and Sarah. I think some of the points we've touched on already echo a lot of GSV Labs' core mission and a little bit of its evolution as well. So I'll give a brief background. As you said, my name is Kate Newton, and GSV Labs is a global innovation services platform, and we basically exist to connect startups with the resources that they need to grow and build successful companies. And we do this in a variety of ways. Historically, we've done this primarily through physical centers and innovation hubs. So my role is actually to manage our Silicon Valley headquarters center, where we support about 90 startups in one very startup-focused co-working space. We provide them with programming and events and really just an innovation culture. We have another similar center in Boston where we support another 60 entrepreneurs. But we realized about 2 years ago in our company that our CEO, Nikhil Sinha, who came over from Coursera, he was the chief content officer over there, he realized that we could only interact with so many people coming through physical centers. And even as we launched more hubs throughout the world, that there were many entrepreneurs out there that would never have that access and that opportunity to get those resources. There are over 6 million businesses started every year, which means many of those people wouldn't be able to come into one of our centers. So with that in mind, we actually launched a digital product. It's called GSV Passport. And it is basically an online one-stop shop for founders where they can access resources, a lot like some of the ones Fred just outlined, actually, connection to investors, money, mentors. We have a lot of expert mentors on the platform that they can be matched with. And then a bunch of different, software tools and perks. So anything from, cloud credits for engineering to marketing tools to financial services to legal help. Basically, they can access all of that on one online platform. So we launched that a little bit over a year ago. Since we launched, we support over 20,000 entrepreneurs now on that platform, counting over 100 countries. So for me, it's been really interesting to see how our community has grown and the different ways you can kind of foster this type of ecosystem from physical hub to a much scaled up online community. And our core belief, much like what's been said, is that talent is distributed equally. That creatives and innovators and entrepreneurs are everywhere. But capital and resources historically has been very concentrated. So we believe if we can put together the right software tools and make this available more widely, you can effectively democratize innovation this way. And so that's what we've done. That's enabled us to also try and help other ecosystem builders to build their own entrepreneurship communities. So corporates, universities that are building out these tools. So that's what we're exploring now, and that's how GSC Labs is growing.
Great, thank you. So I'd request Roman to introduce himself.
So hopefully you can hear me. Does it work? Do you hear me? Okay, that's fine. Yes, my name is Roman, and I worked for a couple of time for the Impact Hub, and now I'm working as a freelancer, and I'm working currently at a new project to build up a new incubator in the tech region. And so I'm interested in hearing what can I do right, what can I do wrong, because I do not want to reinvent the wheel. So this is the reason to connect with a lot of people, especially with you guys. And thanks for giving me some hints and insights what I can do and what I can do right or wrong. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Great. Thank you, Roman. Thomas, would you like to go next?
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm really here to listen to all this wisdom, all this international wisdom that's being discussed today. I work with Fred and the team at Engine, and to be embracing this notion of spreading entrepreneurship from the micro to the macro. And Fred has a subject area that he speaks on, which is called the city as a startup. And it really is designed to help cities understand what it takes to be able to think entrepreneurially. And if we were to look at the spectrum of where we all know entrepreneurs to be and where we all know most municipalities to be, they really are at opposite ends of the spectrum. And what we really try to do is to turn that spectrum into kind of a circle and to make those two ends meet, because especially today in this post-COVID world that we are all learning about and many of us designing ourselves, the cities really are going to have to rethink the way that they approach solutions to many of their challenges now. And, entrepreneurial thinking and design thinking, which is one of my areas of focus, is really the most effective, efficient way to do that, I think.
Great, thank you. So my friend Anurag is here, and I think he doesn't have an access to Babar. So, but go ahead, introduce yourself, Anurag.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. Really grateful listening to everyone and the insights. I'm Anurag. I'm based in India. I currently work with C-Stars. It's a global investment network based in Switzerland, but operating in emerging markets. Our mission is to impact people's lives across emerging markets through technology, entrepreneurship, and really work at the intersection of sustainable development goals. I recently started working there as a leading partnerships in Asia. Prior to this, I was with Techstars for 6 years, building the Asia. And so I've been involved in the community and building entrepreneurship ecosystem for a while. I have a good share of learnings, but still there's always so much to learn from different people who have already done it and built it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anurag. So, Fred, I want to ask you one thing. Thomas just mentioned city as a startup, and we live in a world which is becoming more globalized, and it's also becoming more local, and cities are becoming more and more relevant going forward. A lot of countries have not empowered their cities to the degree that they should. But I think that will happen anyway. So what are your thoughts on city as a startup and the role of incubators or spaces that you built or that you work with in accelerating that process?
Well, I go to a lot of cities around the world, and the first thing I've noticed is that all cities have the same problems. If you're sitting in traffic in Karachi, or you're sitting in traffic in New Delhi or Paris or Munich or Los Angeles, it still kind of feels the same. You can't get to where you need to be. And so cities face this similar problems, whether it's traffic, pollution, housing, so forth, so on. They may manifest themselves differently. And the truth of the matter is that those problems are getting worse, not better. And so the quality of our quality of life is slowly eroding. And it's slowly eroding not because the people in these cities don't know about these problems and aren't trying, but they're just not driving innovation fast enough to make a difference. And so the whole notion of city as a startup is a notion of how do we introduce innovation into a city, both in how it operates among itself, as well as the environment it creates for innovators. Startup entrepreneurs, they're kind of different animals. First thing is we start things. I mean, think about that. How many people do you know who actually start something without knowing where it's going to end up? And also maybe put some risk in it, whether it's capital or lack of work. Starting things without knowing where they end up is a really important criteria of entrepreneurs. But how many cities do that? And the reason that's important is because if you need to try different things, and you need to try different things rapidly if we're going to solve these significant problems. And so my favorite quote from Thomas Edison is, "I haven't failed, I've just tried 20,000 things that didn't work." Well, that's true, and it's a big difference in mindset. And so if cities can learn how to start things, try, pivot, and eventually build things and build them rapidly, I think we'll have a chance of speeding the solutions and therefore making the quality of life better. I think COVID-19 is bringing this thought fast forward. As Tom has mentioned, we do a lot of work with cities and regions, government, and so forth, because they're the ones that usually start to drive ecosystems. And many of the places we work in have economies that are mainly retail, restaurant, service, goods movement. And those economies are really, really subject to automation. In the U.S. here, one recent study said before COVID, and by the way, today it was announced that I think our official unemployment rate is 14%. Everybody believes it's 24%. Was that 40% of all U.S. jobs will be threatened by automation. 40%, not 15, not 20, 40%. One of the regions we work with is 60%. So as COVID has brought all this unemployment forward, and the people I talk to, they're two things. They're scared and they want to get on with rebuilding. But the question becomes, well, what are we rebuilding? Are we rebuilding what we've had? And what we've had is good. I mean, restaurants and retail and all that stuff, that's used that. But if that's not built on a base of innovation and technology and in building companies that can last and generate more jobs than normal, I think we'll be we will have missed an opportunity. And I think that, I'd love to at some stage hear from Kate and others what they think the post-COVID environment is going to be like. But, for instance, and how it's affected your business. In our business, we're the network for global innovation. Well, guess what? We did a lot of traveling. We were in a lot of different parts of the world. Well, this is how I travel now. This is exactly how we travel. This is exactly how we do work. And so that's impacting our business, both good and bad. So I'll hit the pause button and let others jump in.
Yeah, sure. So I'll invite Sarah and Kate to give a comment on that. How's COVID?
Maybe I can give some background also, like on the city thing, because as Fred already imagined, Munich has kind of the same problems, and it's not like the city itself has to be innovative. This would not be the most important thing. They really need people, organizations that do the work for them, I guess. So like one solution we found was also this co-opetition thing. So there's other universities and other entrepreneurship centers here in Munich. And even though we're kind of doing all the same stuff, we realized that Munich, for example, is like super attractive because there's a lot of companies here. There's a lot of tech potential here, but actually it's super difficult to find a flat. It's not visible internationally because it's super difficult to get employees from other countries, for example. So if you have a startup and want to scale, it's super difficult to get the tech talents from other countries. It takes ages till you get the visa done. So this is all like public governmental city stuff. And even though they get a well-paid job here in Munich, then it's difficult for them to find a flat because actually they don't have a contract yet, or they didn't work like already half a year here. But you need like this extract of your bank that you can prove that you really have an income, stuff like that. So what we thought with the other universities that actually do the same job as us, and actually sometimes we also kind of fight for clients because they have similar models. We were like, okay, let's build the Munich ecosystem. It's called MUST. It's the MUST Summit GmbH. So 1/3 is of each university incubation center. And what we really did is we applied for governmental money. The three of us, the three universities, we won the money. Actually, we're going to take this money to put it in. We convinced Google, we convinced the city of Munich to give us the resources that we need as specialists to really build an ecosystem where innovators can really do their work and make cities a better place. And not just cities, also go further, So again, the ecosystem. So you need the governmental part that gives us the money, but actually it's better that they don't really decide, give the people the decision power and space to really create things because we know what we do. Get the investors in. They are here, but you have to deliver them as well. If there's no startups to invest in, why should investors come? It's always like both sides. Make things easier, make us more internationally wise visible. I mean, we have a Munich startup site webpage. It's all in German. It's kind of one problem. I mean, it's difficult to really get visibility in that. Yeah, and just bring all those parties together. And I think Fred is also doing great work. Kate is doing great work. I guess all the others of you as well. But I think really we have to put our power, our knowledge, and really offer this. And just asking the cities, the government to give us kind of the money and the room to really develop the things, to make also the cities more innovative. That would be kind of my argument for that.
I think what I really liked about your example was, various incubators coming together to form a coalition, and then using that to, mobilize public resources and then deploying them to, build the whole ecosystem instead of, one organization trying to do it, everybody doing it together. So Kate, would you like to comment on, what's your experience with, what's happening post-COVID to the GSV model? And I think you already have an online model, so it must be working pretty well.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I could talk a lot about just all the different ways COVID has affected our business and all of our members. From a our physical spaces standpoint, I'm of course spending a bunch of time thinking about the future of work these days, and that part of our business has been affected drastically in terms of the way we'll bring people back to work safely and help entrepreneurs continue to collaborate in a physical space. And so that's a whole conversation. But for the majority of our business that's coming online now, it's been really interesting because in this kind of time of distance, it seems like collaboration and the ability to connect with others and continue to make meaningful progress on projects, and especially for entrepreneurs, is more important than ever. And so we've seen a spike in our online members coming on, and our just ability to connect those parties. One of the ways we are deploying our software now, and I think I mentioned this a tiny bit, but we're actually using it to white label it out to other businesses and organizations trying to build up their own entrepreneurial ecosystems. So that can be universities or corporates or even investor networks. And so right now, if you're a university that doesn't have a sophisticated digital learning or way to connect your portfolios and the startups coming out of your ecosystems, now is a great time for you to make one because that work can't be done right now without that digital platform. And so for us, we see a growing need there, and I've had a lot more conversations around deploying that kind of solution.
Great, thank you. Fred, please tell us more about how different people in different cities of the world, what should they be doing and looking at right now in terms of building their own local communities, and also connecting with the rest of the world.
Slightly broad questions. Okay. The single biggest thing that we talk to people to do is strategic in nature. And that is, how do you convince a city economic development policy, which often is retail-based and so forth, to shift into an economic development policy that's based and centered around innovation? And once cities understand or get behind the importance of innovation to economic development, not the importance of innovation to other things. There has not always been a connection between innovation, commercialization, and economic development in the minds of government and policy officials. They haven't always understood those two things, that there's a very big connection. But once they do that, then it's possible to start to convince them to invest in what I call innovation infrastructure. To start, it doesn't have, nothing is free. There's no free lunches. You don't go from a retail-based economy to an innovation-based economy overnight and for no money. Right? It takes a long time effort, and it takes investment. And while many cities, regions, countries are willing to invest in roads and in that kind of infrastructure, they don't know how to invest, and they don't know what to build in terms of innovation infrastructure. And many of the people on this call are innovation infrastructure players. Okay? And in our language, there are 7 components of an ecosystem that need to be not only built up, but then connected and figured out how they work together. And those 7 components, very quickly, are having leadership understand, agree to not only making innovation a center part of their economic development strategy, but as Sarah said, we don't necessarily think that they're going to become innovators, but they have to understand how to interface with entrepreneurs. And so that's the key point. Second component is sources of innovation, most often universities and garages and entrepreneurs and corporate players. And what we see in that arena is universities are great in research, but they're really horrible in commercialization and connecting to markets, and they're really very campus focused. Now there are obviously exceptions. Then the whole innovation hub component and that's incubators, accelerators, programs involved in that. When running an LACI, the mayor and his team would often come to us and say, okay, when are we going to have to stop putting money into you guys? We started it, we wanted to give you a little bit of money, and we thought you were going to go away. Well, guess what? You don't not put any money into roads. This is an investment. It requires, so changing that whole mindset of understanding that companies like Sarah or Kate or others, they need support. They are doing a strategic public interest thing, and so building up innovation engines, okay, is really key. The next component is investment. Now, if you think all entrepreneurs want money, okay, investment money, every city I've ever worked with or met, they all want people from Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley to drive to SFO, get on an airplane, fly to wherever they are, and invest in their companies. That's their model. And that's not going to happen. And so regions need to have a different model for developing investment capital, because every company needs investment capital, sometimes not huge amounts. And especially in the sustainable technology business, where the ramp up is much longer than the digital business. Next component is talent. I won't go into too much details on that, but we're not talking about workforce training programs. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about innovation talent, and how do you find and prepare people to be innovators in these companies and in fast-growing companies. Mobilizing the stakeholders is the next component, and that's making sure everybody supports. And finally, it's connecting to markets. And you would think, those are local markets and those are global markets. And you would think that most regional, local places, they have that figured out. Well, in fact, they do not have their infrastructure and their programs aligned to drive market development for sustainable technologies in the area. So what's going to happen is they're going to be faced with the question of, do I buy it or do I build it? They're going to implement it. There's no question the world's going to, over time, become more sustainable. So that's so those are my next comments, and I'll hit the pause button.
Excellent. Sarah, tell me two things. One is a question around your business model. We've talked about this before, but if you could elaborate a little bit more in terms of, you make money from corporates and from investors, and you spend it on entrepreneurs and startups. And what percentage of it is funded by the government, and what percentage are you able to generate yourself? And and between your coalition partners in the city, how is the city coming together to build the innovation ecosystem?
Maybe for that, I'm gonna tell a little bit about the history of our programs. Actually, in the beginning, we started like 13 years ago with the government funding. So we had a typical government funding where we started the initiative of the first accelerator program, the accelerator program for the early stage in cooperation with the university. And then we were running out of money, and the founders were like, how can it be that we teach entrepreneurship and we're not entrepreneurial on ourselves at all? And that's why they were like, okay, we need to get some money from the industry or from somewhere else than from delivering something. So really create win-win situations. So that's when we founded a foundation. So this is the German Entrepreneurship Foundation, and suddenly it was possible for us to receive donations and to be in partnerships. So actually, for example, Salesforce is a partner, Deloitte Digital is a partner of the accelerator program. So we really give them value of the things we already have. For example, visibility within the Munich ecosystem or access to talents and so on. And suddenly we were one of the first entrepreneurship centers in Germany, which were money-wise speaking self-sufficient, so not independent or not dependent from government anymore. So that's where other universities approached us to kind of advise them how to build a self-sufficient entrepreneurship center. And that's actually where we started our consulting career. And after consulting different like TU Berlin or RWTH Aachen and Leibniz University Hannover, so also quite big names of universities, suddenly corporates came over and asked us if we can do that for different universities. Why can't you do that for corporates? So actually that's kind of how we started to use the knowledge we already collected, kind of building our own accelerator programs to build innovation units for big companies. For example, Siemens, there we built a Siemens AI lab, like really giving them the structure and the surrounding to have like an innovative kind of base, which is different to the mothership, let's say. We did that for Volkswagen and for Allianz and for BMW. And this is actually how we kind of create the money to actually give back to young talents and also to older talents. So there we kind of open. And then it happened that the German government, the Ministry of Economy, also kind of saw that we have a talent there, and actually they're contracting us to really build this. So that's how we create revenue, and it's our business model.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Fred, there's a question. I think maybe you can address this. How to encourage entrepreneurs, rather small businesses, to think beyond themselves and to look towards building an ecosystem that eventually benefits everyone? Or maybe selfish and they'll remain selfish.
I'm reading the question, and I just need a little bit more explanation. What is the difference between entrepreneurs and small business starters?
I think it would be the same, but the person who's asked is I'm open to him explaining it.
Okay, so yeah. So the thing is that entrepreneurship is mainly focused towards having something technical, a mobile app or something. But maybe someone is importing something or exporting something. So that comes under the heading of small medium enterprise.
Well, I look at it slightly different. I think I look at it as for the difference between starting a company that's scalable and a company that might not be scalable. A scalable company does not have to be, in my estimation, technology-based. Most often it is, but it's innovative-based. What does innovation mean? It means the creation of new things, new business models, new ways of reaching marketplaces, new ways of selling things. All of those things to me are innovative, and they are scalable, but they're not necessarily technology driven. And so my sense of what an innovation economy is, it's an economy that generates growth through the creation of new things. And I don't really care what those new things are. I don't care if those companies turn out to be huge companies or lots of small ones. What I believe a strong economy is innovation, the creation of new things, the creation of growth. And that benefits everyone. And I'll give you an example of that. In the world of economic development, and I'm listening to myself and I'm saying, geez, I know way too much about this world. There is something called direct jobs and indirect jobs. A direct job is I hire Joe. Okay? An indirect job is Joe goes down the street and has lunch, and the people in that restaurant, a small proportion of them are paid by Joe's. Well, you multiply that up, and that's how the concept of direct jobs creation and indirect job creation. Okay. In building innovative companies, when you study how many indirect jobs are created from innovative companies versus how many indirect jobs are created from standard retail jobs. So if you, in our country, if you open up a Home Depot, which is a large hardware store, okay, and you one new Depot job, that's going to generate 1.1 indirect jobs. if you open up a technology company, a growth-oriented technology company, data shows that one person that you hire is going to create 5 indirect jobs. So there's a 1 to 5 ratio, and that's called leverage. And the reason for that, of course, is that, let's just continue that for 1 second. And those 5 jobs, those 5 indirect jobs go out and they go to restaurants and they use strategic services and they go to doctors, and that grows and that becomes an increased tax base or increased base for services. So the creation of jobs and the creation of innovative driven jobs, I think, benefits everybody. And it's part of my mission in life, and it should be part of everybody's on the screen, is to start to educate people that that's how it works. And that's why it's much better to create an innovative job, no matter what size. Okay? I don't care what size a company is, versus expanding traditional. Tell me if that answered your question, or you want more.
In a way, yes. But the trouble I get while working with these people is their selfishness. So let's suppose that you're working at something and another person B has another expertise, and I link them together to work at a lower cost, perhaps, like decrease only $50 out of a $300 bill. So they won't agree to that.
They're just dumb. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you to survive in this world, and gee, if COVID-19 doesn't bring it home, you have to be flexible. You have to be able to pivot. You have to live in a changing world. And what worked literally yesterday will not work today or tomorrow. And so those people are dumb. And we're all self-interested. There's no question about that. That we all care about ourselves first and foremost, as it should be. And but there's a big difference in what you build and how you build it, and what industry you're in, and that has a major impact as well. And I'm fortunate enough to work in a industry that we can do good, build sustainable products. We can make money because this is a fast-growing category. There's no question in my mind, despite our president. And if you do it right, you have fun. And so, do good, make money, have fun. I think those 3 things can, in fact, go together. And people that don't understand it just don't.
So, Sarah,
I don't know if that's the answer to your question either, but that's my answer.
So if people are, stupidly selfish, then they have to wake up and, learn how to, make sure that their interests are protected while working with other people and collaborating. So, Sarah, there's a question for you from Anurag, which is that which regions outside Munich does your organization work and support entrepreneurial activities?
We're actually doing quite a lot of international projects. We just, like last year, we did a hackathon in Tunisia, all organized from Germany. That was pretty amazing. So we did a train-the-trainer program to really educate people there at university, to make them also giving them all the knowledge to really bring the things forward for themselves, which is probably not the basic for a scalable business. But that's more kind of our mission, really to give them the tool set to educate their own people and to run things like hackathons and stuff. We did a project in India, we did a project in Ghana and South Africa. We're working now for the Singaporean government. Plenty of different countries. And maybe a good example of our work and again of ecosystem and collaboration is that we unified also our powers and synergies of the 4 universities in Munich and built the Social Entrepreneurship Academy, which is also non-profit. People may think, why are you doing that if you don't earn money? But again, it's kind of our mission to bring entrepreneurship to really educate people and make the world more innovative. And this also like in the social area. And their really nice project is that we once a year have a social entrepreneurship summer school where we work together on 4 different continents. So the summer school takes place every year in August, 1 week in Mexico, 1 week in China, 1 week in South Africa, and 1 week in Munich. And usually have 30 participants in every country from 25 different countries. So really bringing the innovators together from all over the world, use synergies, develop new projects, and make the life or the world a better place also through innovation, which is also possible, not just making money, also make money, that's pretty important. But also, yeah, social innovation can also be something with a business model behind. That's where we try to influence as well. There's also a massive open online course where we work also together with Mohamed Yunus, for example, the Nobel Prize winner for peace. He's giving lectures there, different of our experts. So if you want, afterwards I'm going to share with Shah, or you just write me on LinkedIn. It's an massive open online course sponsored by SAP, and we design the content.
Excellent. So Kate, there's a question for you on the chat. If you could just read it and answer it.
Sure. It says here, appreciate learning more about the online platform as a service and our learning successes stage of growth. Let's see, I got 1 minute. Yeah, no, absolutely. Would love to just speak a little bit more to that. So I mentioned, our GSE Passport, the online platform, it's a subscription model for members. So entrepreneurs pay us kind of a low barrier subscription fee to access the resources on that platform. It helps connect them with, the short version is investors, mentors, and basically a bunch of different service providers. It also serves as kind of an education discovery platform, so that those entrepreneurs can get, daily news. They can get a bunch of different kind of 101 best practices around anything from creating a pitch deck to, growing their marketing strategy, and different kind of educational components like that. It also serves to connect those entrepreneurs to each other. So we have a kind of a global Slack community where we host office hours and people ask questions, and we have kind of forums for people to interact. And so the growth of our platform, it's been over a year, and we're up to 20,000 members on that platform. We're seeing it kind of all over the world, but a few hotspots for us are actually in India, Canada, Brazil, some in the Middle East, starting to get more into Europe as well. And so we're seeing kind of different growth there, and there's a bunch of other different metrics that I could speak more to, but would love to connect and kind of talk more on that for the person that asked that question as well.
Great.
I know we're running out of time.
Yes. So last minute comments from Sarah and Fred before we just log out. Sarah, you can go first.
Yeah, it's crazy how this hour just went by. I had the feeling that we didn't have time at all. No, thanks to all of you, and I hope to stay in contact. Contact me on LinkedIn, and hope to exchange. I think because exchanging and talking about ideas is the most important thing. As I always say, like, the idea starts in your mouth as soon as you talk it out. It's real, and so I really think it doesn't start in your head. It doesn't start at your hand. It starts in your mouth. So thanks for sharing, to all of you.
Thank you. Yes, Fred.
Well, first of all, Shah, thanks for organizing this. Like Sarah, this has been very quickly. It's been a lot of fun and enjoyable. And the people that are on this call are doing good work, and we need to find more of us to do that work more often. And I'll leave it at that. And anybody wants to reach out, it's very easy to do. Fred at ngin.org. Here we go. Thanks, Shah.
Thank you so much, Fred. Thank you so much, Sarah, Kate, and Fred. So I had a great time, and I also felt that our like flew away. It's like maybe we went into parallel, time just skipped. So look forward to being in touch. We're trying to build this live video networking community, and the idea is to bring people together from different ecosystems, as well as a lot of founders coming together. So hope to see all of you again soon. Thank you so much. Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Nice meeting everybody.